Hi, I'm Josh Davidsburg. I'm the director of Queen of the Capitol, a documentary about government bureaucrats by day, drag queens who crusade for the community by night. And I'm joined with a bunch of the members of the Imperial Court of Washington, DC, and some of the fabulous nonprofits that they help out for this Q&A. I'm going to start by introducing everybody, and then I'll throw out some questions, and we'll take questions from the audience. So first, we've got Muffy Blake Stevens, who is the main star of the documentary. We follow Muffy for a full year as she campaigns for Empress of the Imperial Court of Washington, D.C. We've got her drag mother, John, who goes by Shelby. We've got Chris, who goes by Milan. We've got Rick, who goes by Destiny. We've got Dana Price, who goes by Trace Couture, Kennedy Smith, and Fidel. And then we also have, joining us as well, we've got Ted Lewis, who is from Side by Side, which at the time was called RoseMe, one of the amazing nonprofits that the Imperial Court raises money for. And we've got Ryan from Capital Pride as well. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of all get together. We haven't really seen each other since the documentary. So first I want to ask everybody, what have you been doing since filming wrapped? And I'll start with Muffy.
Still been, since filming wrapped, continuing, of course, that was 4.5 years ago. So there's been 3.5 reigns of the Imperial Court since then. So continuing to be involved with the court and its activities. And then once we got to a point of having the film, begin the film festivals, then traveling the film festival circuit and going around to various courts across the country who also held screenings as well. So doing that. And then, of course, now we're in quarantine. So I'm scrapbooking and cooking YouTube videos on cooking.
And Shelby, how about you?
I don't do drag anymore. I retired right after Muffy stepped down as Emperor.
During my step down.
Yes, during your step down. And now I jokingly call myself a housewife. I have a boyfriend, and we still hang out with family and all that wonderful stuff. But other than that, I don't do drag anymore.
And Chris, how about you? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Trying to figure out the unmute. Since the filming, stayed with the Imperial Court, although now in Texas. I went to their coronation last year. This year it was canceled because quarantine. So I occasionally do drag, and then full-time, I'm a flight attendant and still with the Marine Corps. So just working mostly.
And Destiny?
Hey, so I'm still with the Imperial Court of Washington, D.C. I'm now actually the president. Have been for about 4 or 5 years now. Just keeping the Imperial Court system going along. Still working with the federal government as well. So even with the quarantine, I'm still working from home, which I love. And my husband is now the reigning emperor of the Imperial Court of Washington, D.C. We're on reign 8, so we got Emperor Rudy and Empress Ginger. And we've been doing a lot of online stuff, trying to keep the community involved in the Imperial Court of Washington, D.C. relevant during this time, so people don't forget about us. So our monarchs have been extremely wonderful with putting these different events together online. So keep an eye on our Facebook, Imperial Court of Washington, D.C., and join us in some of our events sometime.
And Trace?
There, I think I'm unmuted. Just been working. Switched from interior to force service. So now I'm truly following in my mother's footsteps as a contracting officer. So life just rolls on. Finished up a regent year. Athena, my husband of 22 years this year, ran last year and was Empress 7. And I was asked to step up as regent. So I did reign again. And this year supporting Emperor and Empress 8, Rudy and Ginger, in their endeavors as we do our Dowager year, ready to end another year.
And Fidel? Oh, I think we lost. There we go.
So I ended up moving from DC. I moved back to Texas, where I work here in Corpus and Houston, and virtually support the Imperial Court of DC, and then also support the local chapter of the Texas courts here locally.
And Ted, can you tell us a little bit about what Side by Side is and what's changed since we finished filming?
Sure. So in the film, we were our previous name, Roseme, and my predecessor, Beth Panelitis, was fortunate enough to participate. We were the Richmond Organization for Sexual Minority Youth, and we shifted our name in 2016 because we also have satellites in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Petersburg, Virginia, which are about an hour and a half west and about 45 minutes south of us. And then we do training and technical assistance for schools throughout all of Virginia. And so we shifted our name to a broader sort of understanding of our geography. But we work with LGBTQ youth and young adults ages 11 to 25 with counseling, support groups, as well as now homelessness services in the Richmond area.
And I kind of want to throw this question out to everybody, but I'm going to ask Ryan first. This is a different year for Pride, obviously, with everything that's going on. What are you all doing differently this year?
It changes every day. We had begun to think about not just virtual, but how can we do things a little bit differently? How can we maybe identify new ways to engage with the community, not just in the short term, but also in the long term? So we actually began a new, what we call a Pride Talk series. So we've had two already. One was engaging with our local nonprofit organizations for them to share how they've navigated this time during COVID, but then also how systematic racism ultimately impacts the work that they do. We followed that up with one that really talked about educating folks on what defund the police actually mean, and in terms of how you reinvest in community programming. So that's one aspect. We are about to launch our Pride in the City web series, which will be on a week from today, actually. Today, we actually recorded and started to produce the performances. So these would be people that normally would participate in the festival or parade or another event. And we intend to do a Pride in the City every month with the intent to be really showcasing a different aspect of the LGBTQ plus community in the National Capital Region. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue. I'm sorry.
No, so ultimately we're just trying to find, again, the parade, the festival are traditional ways to really bring the community and have a platform for folks to be visible and to be seen. So we're really just trying to find new ways that we can utilize, whether it be virtual, online, or even smaller gatherings to provide space for folks to be visible and to be heard.
And I want to just kind of throw this out to everybody. How is Pride different for you this year? And Muffy, if you want to start first.
It's become much more of a, in some ways, work-centered matter. As I discussed some during the film, we have what's called affinity groups at the U.S. Department of Labor. And so we've done a lot at the department for our Pride at DOL group, doing weekly and sometimes twice a week Zoom meetings with the membership, which is both the LGBTQ employees of the department as well as our allies, discussing everything from the institutional racism in not just policing, but across government as a whole, and then looking at various aspects of being a labor-related discrimination. Of course, with the Supreme Court case on this past Monday, that opens up the one that we'll be doing some things specifically on Title VII related to that now. But a lot of my Pride stuff really has been limited to that, other than just continuing to push out stuff through social media and being involved in both things that are being done locally, virtually, but then also doing some virtual shows with other courts as well.
So, Pride is actually really important to this documentary because that was the impetus of the documentary. It all kind of started with Pride. Just to give you all a background on how this kind of all came together, I teach at the University of Maryland at the Philip Merrill College of Journalism. I teach video production. And one of my students had to go and do a story, had to find an interesting person to do a documentary on, a mini documentary. and was at Pride and saw Muffy and saw Muffy's hair and walked up, 4 blocks away and was like, Muffy, I need to do a story on you. And she kind of set that up, did the story in my class, and I was talking to my students after class, and one of them asked me what I wanted to do with my career beyond just teaching. And I said, well, I've always wanted to do a documentary. And Brandy said, well, why don't we do one on Muffy? And she set up a meeting, told me all about, Muffy told me all about the court and the academy and all the wonderful things that you guys all do. And I knew this was a documentary that we had to do. And so Brandy is actually a co-producer on the film, and I brought some other students along with me. So that's kind of a background on how this all got together. I've got some questions from the audience now. Lorraine Fald says hi, first of all, and wants to know if there are courts like the one in DC in other cities.
So this is Destiny. So not only
Yes, there are. There are 70 chapters.
Well, Fidel, then Destiny.
So Destiny will go for. So yeah, Destiny will go ahead.
No, go ahead, Destiny. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Majesty. So not only am I the president of the Imperial Court of Washington D.C., I'm also what we have in the Imperial Court system is known as an heir apparent. I'm on the Imperial Court Council for the International Court System, heir apparent to Queen Mother One, Nicole Murray Ramirez. So there are over 70 chapters all across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Pretty much in any state that you can think of, there probably is a court or several. So like Texas, with the size of Texas, there's many courts in Texas. You have Houston, Corpus Christi, Dallas, San Antonio, et cetera. California has several as well. We actually have 2 that we're working with now, hoping to get created, one in South Carolina and one in Georgia. So they're continuing to grow, which we're very pleased about, that the Imperial Court system is continuing to expand and grow. So we're able to reach more of our community across the country. And then, like I said, also Canada and Mexico. Canada has at least 10 or 12 courts across of Canada. So if you're interested in finding out if there's a court near you, you can just go to the internationalcourtsystem.org website. Once again, that's internationalcourtsystem.org website. And there you can find close to you where a court may be close to you. If not, you can always reach out to Muffy or myself or any one of us on here, and we will find the information you need.
Lorraine is actually in South Carolina. So hi, Lorraine. I served on the international board of my professional association with her. So Lorraine's awesome.
So awesome. So Lorraine, yeah, we're working on getting a South Carolina court open now. So hopefully within the next year, if not sooner, we'll have one down there.
We screened at some film festivals, one in Cinema Diverse out in Palm Springs and one in Atlanta. And it was really cool. A bunch of members of the courts came out to see the documentary when we were out there. So we have a question from Andrew. How did you guys find your way into the court?
This is Trace. I kind of just stumbled into it. Back in 1993, just after I got out of the military in Missoula, Montana. And I walked into a bar, and no, it's not a joke. Walked into the bar and there was a drag show. And within the year, 2 years, the Imperial Court of Montana came to be, and just from there. And then when I moved to DC, Destiny will remember this. We walked up to her at the Titans. They were performing, and we said, Athena and I looked at her and said, so we just moved here. Where's the court? And Destiny goes, we don't have a court. There's the academy. So we joined the academy, and then a couple of years later, we decided to start working on a court here in DC.
I got involved in the court back the end of 2011. Fidel actually was one of the 2 individuals who came and approached me because I do a lot of nonprofit work with other groups as well, and some of that was communications related. And the court, and it was in its earlier years at that point, was looking for some assistance for a volunteer to take on PR. And so I was involved in the Academy of Washington, never heard of the court system at that point. Said, sure, sounds like a great idea. And then from that point, found once the fundraising aspect being the centerpiece of the court system, really, That was it was a definite immediate hook for me, and I've been with it ever since.
So this is Destiny. I was also a member of the Academy, and Trace is correct. When him and Athena first moved here, we ran into each other, met each other at a bar, we became friends, and they asked me about the court system, and he's right. What Trace said was true, that there wasn't one at the time, but him and Athena, with a group of other people, started a court system here. And in the inaugural year, what we call of the court system, I call it swindled, because I was extremely busy and I had a lot of them asking me to continue to join. And I just had so much going on that I kept telling them no. And finally, one of them showed up at my front door one night with an application and said they weren't leaving my house till I signed up. So I said, okay, fine. So I signed up. And just like Muffy said as well, once I realized what the court is all about and what it stands for and the community outreach and that they do, I was like, this is for me. This is why I do drag. I do it for my community to help raise money, to give the community a voice. And then I was blessed to be the first crowned empress of Washington, D.C. And now I'm the president. So I've had a great career with the Washington DC, or with the Imperial Court system so far, especially within DC, and don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
Chris, Fidel, how about you guys?
Mine was, I guess, a little different. So I had actually ran for a drag pageant for Miss Omega, which was a club in DC before they closed. And one of my judges was Athena, who later became Empress 7. So I approached her and loved her drag, loved her tiara at the time, and I asked her about it, and she told me about the group. So I went into one of the membership meetings and found out more about them and what they do, and started getting involved from there. And this is now like 8 years later, and I'm still here.
So I started 2007, after I retired from the military, was when I found the court system here in Corpus, and attended a couple of their shows. And then they swindled me into, to use Destiny's word, they swindled me into emceeing a show. And they put a microphone in front of me, and it never stopped. It went wild and crazy. And then I ended up moving to DC, joined their court in its infancy, and became their first emperor, and have just loved the organization ever since.
And here's another question from the audience. What was it like to see the film on the big screen? And did it turn out the way that you thought it was going to?
For me, the first time I saw it, for several times actually, I was still crying. Particularly when it gets into the issues about discussing the battles with depression and epilepsy, and the court being the ones that rallied around me to get me through those points. That was, and I now have got to the point where I no longer cry while watching the film. The first time I think I saw it on the biggest UGIS screen was probably in Atlanta. Watching and seeing a picture of yourself that's 20 feet tall rather than 5'10" is certainly a different image. But that I think was probably the first time it was like, oh, this is really, really real. Even as far as it was the first time that I had that feel.
Shelby, how about you? You're muted.
There we go. Some of us don't know how to work this thing. It was quite moving to see it. I mean, it really, you have feelings towards people and friends, and you kind of know what your relationship is with someone, but when you see it on the celluloid screen, you kind of realize the gravity of what you're doing and who you're doing it for and with. It was quite impressive. I cried my eyes out the first time I saw it, because it was kind of like a catharsis thing for me to see what I had gone through and how I made it to the other side.
Anybody else want to jump in?
This is Destiny. So for me, seeing the film, it was amazing. Josh, you did a fantastic job putting it together and not just putting it together, but you did such a phenomenal job at spreading the message of the imperial court system. Our founder, Jose Julio Sara, who started this 55 years ago, which we're in our 55th year right now, her legacy is continuing to carry on. And it's really moving and heartwarming to see that not only the members of the imperial court system fight and push to keep her memory alive and this organization that she started, but to see other people from the outside, so to speak, find out who we are, see what we're about, and then for somebody like you, Josh, to want to take the time to make this documentary and spread that message of what the imperial court system is about it's very heartwarming. And, you know, we will be thanking you for years and years to come for what you've done.
Well, I didn't set this question up. I just need to point that out there, but thank you. It's very kind. Milan, I don't think I talked to you since you saw the film. What were your thoughts?
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, just because I haven't seen a screening in Dallas. So between moving to Texas and moving to New Orleans with the military, I wasn't in town to be able to see it. And I've heard great reviews about it, and I'm definitely going to have to see it at some point, especially because during the filming, I was the candidate that ran against Muffy, who became Empress. And so seeing all like your hard work, doing the interviews, watching like Trace, Shelby, John, everybody get interviewed, and like what Shelby was talking about, the relationships you have with people. Like it's one thing to be able to like talk with them like week to week and day to day as events go on, but seeing on a big screen and seeing kind of how those come to life and the way other people see it. So I expect to cry, probably have a box of tissues close by when I do get a chance to see it.
Trace, how about you? What were your thoughts when you first saw it?
I cried. I was so proud of Muffy for the work she did for the year, and to see the excellent job you did portraying her and the court and the work that we do was just outstanding. I only got to see it on this little tiny screen because my phone is only, this big. So I hope to see it big screen sometime. But yeah, it was, for those of us that are active participants and know people in the film, it was definitely brought some tears. But it was a lot of fun, and it was pretty cool to see it. It was like, wow, I don't believe that.
The other thing I would add, Josh, is now with it being 4.5 years later from when some of this filming was done, unfortunately there's been individuals who are that are caught in the film who are no longer with us, that have passed on. And those points when you see those individuals, not only locally, some of them that were local members of the court that have since passed, some that were just members of the community that passed, and then those also in other cities. Those points of the film, I think, really are the parts now that really kind of cause me to get the most emotional. When you, early in the film, that first picture of Mame Dennis walking into the coronation in her gorgeous, blue sequin gown with that large Queen Mother of the Northeast crown on, that, and seeing so many of the others across the country, some of the people we've lost in Las Vegas, for instance. It's been very, very sentimental to capture that, and how you were able to take all of that footage that you took and weave it into a story that was so coherent and consistently also was reinforcing what for me was the most important part of why I ran, which is about community and the court and giving back, and that being reinforced over and over and over was, I think, amazing how you did that.
So one of the most important things to me about the film was showing the good work that you all do, but then also showing the nonprofits as well. Ted, what were some of your thoughts watching the film?
So I'm a huge fan of the Imperial Court, not just because of all the money they raised for Side by Side and DC Pride and, Capitol Pride and other groups, but because it's a fabulous show. I mean, who doesn't love that? But I think what I loved about the film that I sometimes forget as a nonprofit who receives the amazing funding that they raise, is the court also creates a community within the LGBTQ community for folks that are looking for a family. And we work with displaced youth all the time who are disconnected from their family of origin, who don't have a place to go, who are looking for a mother or a father, and they can find them in people like Shelby. You can find them in people that you saw in your film, where we're able to highlight how our community has a chosen family. And so I thought what was really beautiful about this is it was a reminder that the Imperial Court is not just about raising money for the community, it's about creating community itself. And that, I think, is what's really beautiful and was really brought out in the film itself. And for the young people we work with, that is a big thing of hope, to be able to see you can be, an amazing adult in the world and still have a family, and also put on fabulous crowns and gowns and be amazing, which everybody deserves to be.
And one of my favorite days filming was the day that we got to walk with you all in Pride and filmed you all marching in Pride. Ryan, what's the relationship between the court and Pride?
I think it's ever growing. Actually, they've reached out this year and have actually offered the time and commitment to help us, figure that out this year. Obviously, we're in a very unique year around the world in regards to what Pride is doing and how we can experience Pride. So we look forward to taking advantage of their offer and really figuring out how we can do some really good things for our community. We coined a phrase called Have Pride 365. And I think that's extremely important, especially after this month ends. It's, we don't want to stop now, even in terms of issues around Black Lives Matter and systematic racism. We can't stop at the end of June. We need to really carry this forward, utilize the platforms that we have through Pride and through our community to address these issues and to really positively impact our communities. So just one thing to note, we are hopeful that we will be able to do something in early September. It's not going to be a traditional parade or a traditional festival or concert, but something that can gather us in a more traditional way within obviously the safety restrictions of the time. So I think it's important that we continue to utilize the platform that we have to send a message.
That was one of the most amazing days. I mean, it was the most incredible atmosphere. I mean, there's so many days looking back on filming this that I'm like, that was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. I remember the first night we were filming Coronation, and seen a drag show before, but it's nothing like the elegance, and it was incredible. So we got a question from Lorraine again. She wanted to give a quick plug to the Queens to the Rescue in Greenville, and she wanted to know what nonprofits you all support now. And Destiny, yeah.
So this is Destiny. So this year, for Reign 8, His Majesty Rudy and Her Majesty Ginger have chosen, once again, we're supporting Side by Side as one of our reign charities. So within the court system, when we have new monarchs that step up, an emperor and an empress, they get to choose. It's usually about 3 main charity organizations that they want to raise money for, and that's what we call our reign charities. And Side by Side happens to be one of our reign charities this year. So a bulk of the money that we raise during this year will be going to Side by Side. Their Majesties also have chosen the LGBT Fallen Heroes Fund, which is a local DC organization that was created by 2 veterans who the sole purpose is to make sure that LGBT fallen heroes get the recognition they deserve and or the funerals that they deserve. Because as we know in today's society, a lot of the times, if you are known as being gay, they don't give you the recognition you deserve sometimes, especially if you pass. So their main purpose is to be able to give you that recognition, whether it be military, police officer, first responders, any of them. They all the fallen heroes that they use. And so that's one of the biggest points that LGBT Fallen Heroes Fund does. And then the last one is the DC Gay Flag Football League. Within the gay community, we have a lot of sports leagues. We have softball, football, cornhole, soccer, kickball. There's a lot. And last year, Trace and Athena raised money for the CAPS League, which is the Chesapeake and Potomac Softball League. This year, Their Majesties chose the DC Gay Flag Football League, raising money for that nonprofit organization to further the sports here in DC, the gay sports leagues here in DC. But not only do we raise money for those three main charities, we do a lot what we call one-offs. So we'll have fundraisers here and there for, like, I think Muffy still to this day does the Epilepsy Foundation fundraiser. So we have a specific fundraiser specified for the Epilepsy Foundation. We also raise money for just all these different local organizations, or some of them are national as well. So, but the three main this year are the LGBT Fallen Heroes Fund, the DC Gay Flag Football League, and Side by Side.
So I've got a question from Laura Russo. She says, "Hi, everyone." And she's asking me, which part of the filmmaking process do I find the most challenging? And I can't say all of them. I would have to say the part that you all are the best at, the fundraising. You know, everything else kind of comes naturally to me. But I definitely learned a ton watching you all raise money. You know, it's, you go to one of your fundraisers and it is not just a fundraiser. It's an amazing, fun event, unlike any kind of nonprofit I've ever seen before. But yeah, I did a crowdfunding campaign through Seed and Spark, and we raised about 20 grand through Seed and Spark and our fiscal sponsor, which is Docs in Progress. And that was the most work I think I've ever done in a month. It just constantly posting on social media, and I've never worked so hard in my life. All right, so another question. How's the drag world changed over the years since you all got started in drag? Who wants to jump in on this one? Muffy.
I started back, I'll give the Missouri version. Back in Missouri, it was, Missouri in the early to mid 1990s was a whole different world. Although Missouri has unfortunately gone backward, not forward. Drag there was very sporadic unless you went to Kansas City or St. Louis, and I didn't live in either of those cities. I actually started doing drag on a bet. My boyfriend bet me that I wouldn't do it, and I said, give the money to a third party so I know I'll get it, and then I'll do it. And it wasn't long after that. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you do it, either you hate it or you're off and running it and you kind of stay with it forever. I then later, not too long after that, became the chairperson of the local LGBT coalition that did not only Pride advocacy, but also did the local Pride festival. And so I was doing that up until I actually moved. When I moved, I figured I'll never do drag again because there was a ton of queens in DC. I would never possibly get back in. But there was my drag grandmother, Ophelia Bottoms, found a Facebook video of me, and it became kind of one of those missions. She was going to put me back in a dress. And so I did end up, and once I was back in it, then it was kind of off and running. It was actually during the 49th year of the Academy of Washington is when I got back involved formally in drag. And so ever since then, it's been off and running, as they say in the South.
So this is destiny. So for me, Muffy's right. Drag has changed over the years. So when I first started doing drag back in 2003, it was hair to the hot sky, gown to the floor, fully beaded, rhinestone gown, spend your money, you've got to look flawless type drag. What we call nowadays, it's called high drag, or old guard. And over the years, it has changed a lot. Where a lot of these young queens, they go to like Forever 21 and they put together a cute little outfit, and that works. And the kids, we call them the kids, our fans and our customers that come into the shows, they love that sort of stuff. It's more of a realistic look type drag. Back when Muffy and I first started drag, and Shelby can attest to this as well, it was, you didn't go out on a stage unless you had rhinestones all over your outfit and it was perfectly fitted to you and you had it custom made, all that fun stuff. And so over the years, it's progressed to a more relaxed state. But a lot of us, like Muffy and myself, we still prefer that old guard look. And so if you are able to ever attend a coronation, you'll see at coronations, everybody comes out dressed to the nines. I mean, it looks like the red carpet at the Oscars, people walking through, and a lot of these people will spend a lot of times designing their gowns and having them made or making them themselves because they have the specific look that they want to do. And, you know, hair is all up and perfect, and we've got the crowns and we've got the jewelry. So it's become a little, there you go. See, Muffy's got all the jewels on. It's become a little bit more relaxed. And to be honest with you, I enjoy the relaxed state of it. So another little bit about me is I've been very honored to be the host for Capitol Pride's main stage at Pride for the last 14 years now. And I spend all day, 8 to 9, 10 hours a day outside in the sun. And so instead of wearing a beaded gown with the new drag nowadays, I'm able to get away with a nice pair of pants. And I think the last couple of years I've worn the Pride t-shirt like what Ryan is wearing here, the Still We theme for this year's Pride. I've been able to get away with that. So I do enjoy the relaxed side of it, but I thoroughly enjoy that moment where you get all dolled up and you look like you're hitting the red carpet for the Oscars and you just feel glamorous.
Shelby, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, when she was saying about the hair to the higher the hair and the gown to the floor, and she said you didn't come out like that, and nails, you could never show up without, if you didn't have nails on, you got your ass kicked by the elders.
And actually, we had a request from the audience. So in the Zoom format, we can't really see your hair, Muffy, like the full glory of your hair. There we go. Yeah. Muffy is known for her big hair. Muffy, tell us a little bit about your hair. You're muted. Muffy, you're muted.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm technologically challenged. I deal with the law and not with technology. I leave the film to you. When I decided to come back and do drag in DC, I thought if I was going to do it, I needed a gimmick, quite frankly. And there weren't a lot of drag queens in DC that big hair was their thing that they always, some certainly had big hair from time to time, but it wasn't the thing they always did. And I figured that, okay, my thing will be, I'll be the big hair queen. And that was calling on things from back growing up. I mean, my, grandmas, folks back home, very much, even though it was Northern Missouri is the southern parts culturally. And so it was, the higher the hair, the closer to God. And so that was always what I decided when I decided to start doing drag again in DC back in 2011. I guess that's when I started again. That was the kind of the central piece. And so almost all of the wigs that I do have a few smaller ones, but almost all the wigs that I have are, huge, large things.
The first question, I've got a follow-up for everybody. So RuPaul's Drag Race has exploded, right? It's everywhere. How has that affected, is it helped? Has it hurt? Like, how has that affected you all?
I'll start and then I'll let everyone else go on. I'm just looking at Destiny, waiting to see what she's going to say. I think RuPaul's Drag Race is a double-edged sword, quite frankly. I do watch it back on a rerun a couple weeks later to see what people are talking about, quite frankly. RuPaul Charles is an incredible marketer. Since the early 80s all the way up to now, every time whatever his marketing gimmick was of the day no longer made him money, he'd change it up and a new thing would happen. And Drag Race has certainly been a winner. I think one of the double-edged sword that I speak about is, on the one hand, with a show like that, much like I think Queer Eye for the Straight Guy also kind of was the one that first cracked that egg, is a show that does have individuals who typically would not come to a drag show or would not otherwise be exposed to drag, and maybe even not be exposed to LGBTQ individuals, gives an opening. That said, shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, those are reality game shows. And so the editing they do to those shows, it's purposeful to make individuals either look really bad or look really good so that you can have individuals want to tune into the next episode. Like Jujubee, for instance, if you watch Jujubee on Drag Race, sometimes can come off as being uppity is not the right word, but a little curt. Whether when you watch her on, there's another show that she happens to be on. There's a show on TLC called Dragnificent, and that is much more when you meet Jujubee in person, much more the individual that she really is. And the Dragnificent is where there's 4 drag queens that go around the country helping women either have the wedding they deserve or giving them a makeover. It's the drag version of Queer Eye for the straight guy. And when you watch Jujubee there versus on RuPaul, different person entirely. BB Zahara Benet, when she won season 1, I thought, oh my God, why in the world would it? But when you get to meet her genuinely, and the version that's on that show, entirely different person. So it's a wonderful thing that's exposed more people to our community, but it also has created, I think, amongst some negative stereotypes and reinforcements of stereotypes that otherwise wouldn't exist. And it's not portraying what the drag community that I associate with truly is.
So this is Destiny. Muffy is absolutely right with everything she just said. I don't watch the show anymore either. I stopped watching about 5 or 6 years ago because, in my personal opinion, it shows the more negative side of the drag community. Just like within any community, even the straight community, you have your catty people, your mean-spirited people, ones that like to be the center of attention, so they cut each other down. And to me, that's what RuPaul's Drag Race shows more than anything, is cutting each other down. And so I just stopped watching it, but it's become a negative effect on the local drag community because a lot of people, especially in the gay community, they can watch it on TV, so they don't come out anymore. The straight community, though, it has increased our audience within the straight community at drag shows, that they come to our shows now because they watch it on TV. Now they want to go see it in real life. So they come to the drag show. I've been blessed to be a host of a local drag show here at Freddy's Beach Bar and Restaurant in Arlington, Virginia for about 14, 15 years now. And one of the first things I always ask is, who's your first time seeing a drag show? And most of the audience raises their hand. And then I'm like, how many of y'all watch RuPaul's Drag Race? Those same hands go up. And so that's what brings them out. So the double-edged sword, what Muffy said, is absolutely correct. It's got a positive and a negative impact on us. But my biggest negative impact is that the fact that our own community doesn't support us like they used to back in the day, because they can see it on TV. So they just choose to watch it on TV. I will say, though, that I am watching All Stars 5 this year because I have 3 very close friends that are actually on India Farah, Alexis Mateo, and Jujubee, who I had the pleasure of meeting.
I'm watching that one this year.
Yeah, and Jujubee at Muffy is right, is absolutely one of the biggest sweethearts you'll ever meet. The fame that she has been given being on RuPaul's Drag Race has not affected her in any way. She doesn't have a big head. She doesn't think that she's better than anybody else. She's just a normal human being, sweet as can be. So I wish them all the best in this year's All Stars 5 in this season, and we'll see who does good.
And Ted, with Side by Side has
Josh.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, and sorry, my internet connection is very, very slow. But I also think, though, that it's brought a positive because, I've seen so many kids, the young teenagers, the young 15 and 17-year-olds that are still trying to figure themselves out. And this has given them an opportunity to go, you know what, we can get out there. It shows them, yes, it shows them one side of drag. It may not be the best, but it shows them a side of drag that they can come out and that they will be accepted. And if you look at the double-edged swords that Muffy and Destiny are talking about, it also shows them that there is cattiness out there and you got to be prepared for it. But I think it does help, especially the younger community that are stuck in rural areas that, they're looking at it on their phone because they can't see it on TV. It's because there still is a lot of folks that have not been able to come out. So I think there's a good side to it as well.
And I was going to ask Ted, with shows like Queer Eye and RuPaul's Drag Race, you work a lot with LGBTQ youth. What effect have you seen on them and these shows?
Yeah, I think that it does, give a lot of youth, particularly rural youth, it was just mentioned, access to the community in ways they may not be able to see. I think what's on, with some of our older youth, what's sometimes missing now is, the local gay bar used to also be the community center. And now with technology and people being able to connect and find partners or friends through the internet, the local gay bars are often suffering and they're not seeing a lot of their community members. We're seeing more folks who are not a part of the LGBTQ community, maybe allies, or maybe just want to come, see what the gay bar is like, see a drag show come, and that's great. But we're missing some of the community feel. And I think we hear that from a lot of our youth, is that there's sometimes a mainstreaming of our culture without an understanding of what it means. And so, we have a lot of youth that talk about their friends at school who, will get picked on for being part of the LGBTQ community, yet those same kids who are bullying them are using all the phrases RuPaul uses on TV, right? And so there's this weird thing of sort of gay culture, LGBTQ culture being embraced by the mainstream while still being made fun of if you're actually a part of the community. And so I think that what's hard for a lot of young people to feel is the sense of like what family looks like, which you saw in the film here a lot around the Imperial Court. We don't necessarily get those same families when you're connecting with people online versus at a bar versus at an event like the ones that the court holds. So I think that's one thing we're missing. I think what's been beautiful though is there's actually a lot more LGBTQ representation in younger facing shows. So a lot of our youth love Steven Universe, the cartoon, or She-Ra on Netflix. Those shows that aren't flat out, this is a gay character, this is a trans character, but they just sort of have LGBTQ people as part of the fabric of the story without making it the story itself. And that has been a bigger shift than I think RuPaul or Queer Eye. But I will say that the hilarity of sort of watching your bully call you a name and then turn around and say, oh, I was just throwing shade is a phenomenal disconnect that a lot of our youth are struggling to figure out.
Right. We have another question from the audience. What part of this experience are you most proud of? I'll start with the film. I'm incredibly proud of it. I'm also proud of how I think I was as honest and journalistic as I could be, but you all still loved it from what you've told me. So I'm incredibly proud of that too. So what part of this whole experience are you all most proud of? Shelby, you want to start?
I'm most proud of the relationship that I have with Muffy, the friendship, and it's kind of like just how it's blossomed and how it blossomed on the screen. That was an amazing thing. I'm also really proud of coming. It helped me come to terms with a lot of my past, as seen on the movie. If you watch the movie, I kind of tell a lot about my past, and so it shows a lot of that. But that's probably the most proud I am is really being able to open up, having you open up our hearts and our minds to. Now I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm just so grateful that you all let me in too, and really gave me the access and talked as candidly as you all did. Right. Muffy, what was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part of it is it reinforces for me that there was 2 lines that I said at every event during my reign, and that was, you can't spell community without unity. It's not communified. And that's really reinforced in the entirety of the film. And also my other line was, it's all about spreading laughter, love, and light. There's too much darkness, divisiveness, and hate out there already. And I think that also is reinforced in the film. And it's the people like her here on this panel, my sisters and brothers in the drag community, that when I say that drag was there to save my life, I'm not lying. That literally was the case. I almost committed suicide in Las Vegas during my reign. And it was people like Destiny and Shelby, Fidel, and others, and also fellow empresses across the court system. Those individuals become lifelong friends. Empress Chimera Rouge of San Francisco and Empress Hope Jules from Reno and others were literally part of why I didn't commit suicide that night in Vegas. And my goal for the film has been the question asked sometimes at some of the festivals. If one person sees this film and comes away doing something either for their community or realizes that there's something in them that they have that they can give back, and produce more from, then we've achieved the goal. Yeah, and I thank you for putting this on the big screen to be able to hopefully spread that word far and wide.
Anybody else want to talk about something that they were proud of during this whole experience?
Being able to run against Muffy as a candidate and having that whole film crew experience kind of with it, I know changed kind of the optics, and seeing where we grew from the beginning when it was Trace, Athena, and like 7 of us on a couch to the I think 70, 80 people we had during Muffy's reign, and having that film just be able to get out there and spread our message further. I think that was my favorite part, is being able to see a little slice of DC and our court be able to spread our message to a much broader audience than just our local bars.
So here's another question from the audience, and a little backstory on this too. So the shopping montage in the film, audience member says, what's one of your favorite outfits? And one of my favorite parts of the film, part that my wife was like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, is the part where Muffy is showing her favorite outfits in the film. So what are your favorite outfits that you have, and why?
Like a lot of drag in general, for everyone, I think, evolves. Back then I was much more buying an off the rack ish gown, those like what was shown in the film itself. Since then, and probably the majority of my gowns and outfits are now actually made by one of 2 or 3 individuals. I do a lot of, one of them was shown in the film, the Cookie Time outfit that's from Troop Beverly Hills. I also am a member of the leather and bear community. And so this outfit here is the leather flag. And then I have one as well that is similar, that's of the bear flag as well. So I do a lot of work with Kiko Moore and up in Connecticut. Also, I think some of the names of those I work with. There's some of the other designers. I got one out in California from time to time, as well as one up in Philadelphia. So and you come across some really fabulous things. And I think that I talk about a drag aesthetic, and that is something that has evolved. And then I pick a little thing I'll see something done by someone, and I'm like, that's cute, but I'd like to redo it that way. And for instance, I'll give a little nod to Destiny here. One of Destiny's children came up to me at an Academy event one time and said, I really like how you do your eye, but I want to try something on your nose. And the way that I blend my nose into my eye to this day came from one of Destiny's children. I was like, oh, that's really cute. I like that. And I think a lot of us look at what someone does and how they do this or that piece of it, and then blend that into their persona.
Destiny, what's your...
And Josh...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And Josh, I have to say, not being in drag, I've only done drag a handful of times. I'm not a very pretty drag queen, but I have to say that, one of my best props is my fan. I don't leave home without my fan. And multiple colors. So, the guys that are part of this organization, we all have props as well.
I think the fan scene probably gets the biggest laugh in the documentary.
I love that one.
Yeah. Trace, were you going to say something?
No, I as you saw in the film, and I'd forgotten all about that part of the interview way back when, but I was really proud of my service. And so my nod is we boys, we don't have to do the full on gowns and everything that the drag queens do. And And so we have to come up with something. And so in a nod to the military, I chose to have my uniforms made for even before. Well, no, I guess I would say that I would have ran, even in my academy days, I would have gone with a uniform, but having those uniforms made and seeing those on the screen was like, wow, that's my nod to dragdom. Because like Fidel said, I only do drag on Turnabout, and that's once a year, just because I don't have the patience to be a drag queen.
Destiny, what's your favorite outfit?
Oh, Josh, honey, I don't know if I could pick an outfit. There's several Fidel, Muffy, Trace, even Shelby can even tell you that I do put a lot of thought and effort into some of the outfits that I wear. They've got to be very specific to what the event is, and what I want to look like and what I want to portray that evening. So I have a bedroom literally full of drag. The bedroom basement in my house has become my entire drag closet. It's got dresses and outfits and costumes everywhere. But if I had to pick one, the only one that pops in my head, or the two actually that pop in my head, are my Wonder Woman outfit, because she is an icon, and I have this sense of power when I wear that outfit. And then of course, when I was Empress, my Emperor Ken and I created the House of the Dark Side. And so we are known as the evil ones, which I value very much. Would be my Maleficent outfit, because I have a black heart and I'm cold-hearted. And I value that very much. But it is hard to, it really is hard to pick an outfit, because every outfit I have is made with love and has a point that I'm trying to get across and make. And I use Kiko as well. That Muffy introduced me to Kiko many years ago, and she's an amazing seamstress. So I also have a local seamstress, Jill Shotwell, who makes a lot of my outfits and dresses nowadays. So it's very hard to pick, but my Maleficent and my Wonder Woman are my favorites.
Do you all still go to Saul up in New York? Whenever he comes on the screen, it just makes me smile. That one scene,
every once in a while, yes.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, such a character. So Milan, do you have a favorite outfit you want to jump in with?
So one of the favorite ones that I had made was by the wonderful Kiko that everybody else kind of introduced me to. It's a red, white, and blue floor-length gown, because DC, we have Gala of the Americas coronation insert year. And so having kind of that red, white, and blue and that pride as a capital girl, with the stars along the train, I think was one of my favorite ones that I've worn.
Great. All right, so this is the last question. I'm going to wrap it up with, I want to get quarantine/drag tips from everybody. So what is your best drag queen quarantine tip? Start with you, Muffy.
Oh gosh. I use that I have found work, because I work as an unemployment insurance specialist. So having 40 million people unemployed, work is freaking nuts right now. And that kind of, I found, is squishing my creativity. And so I have found that during the quarantine, I started doing scrapbooking and went back through all of the flyers that I'd printed out, a copy of each flyer from each event during my reign, and produced a scrapbook of that. And now I'm working one about the film. And looking at those and thinking about who helped me at those individual events is really both an emotional connection about the various people I got to work with throughout the process, but also it helps me string my creativity, because when you're trying to work on creating a page in a scrapbook, you want it to look just right. And that's forcing me to channel that, which makes me have to forget about The Office, and forgetting about The Office is a really good thing many days now. So I guess that would be my biggest thing. And then otherwise, trying to cook. So you can always come on and check out my Get Fresh with HelloFresh videos on Facebook.
Anybody else have any drag quarantine tips?
My advice is do not start Weight Watchers while you're on quarantine.
Not going well.
My biggest drag quarantine tip is get a cardboard cutout of yourself in drag. So then you don't have to put it on unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yes.
So yeah, I've semi-retired from the full-time drag. I used to do drag every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the weekends at bars all across this great city. I've had the pleasure of traveling across this nation as well. But during quarantine, there's been a few times I put a face on, and that's only been for the Imperial Court of Washington, D.C. or Capitol Pride. Those are the two organizations that all they ever have to do is ask, and the answer is automatically yes, I will do it. I will shave my face. Not too long ago, I had a full-on beard. I looked like Shelby. Pretty much. I looked just like that. And Capitol Pride called upon me to do something for them. So I gladly shaved my face for them, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But yeah, cardboard cutouts, they really make a difference.
Anybody else have any quarantine tips? No? Okay, so before we go, Ryan, do you guys have anything coming up with Capitol Pride? Anything people should check out?
Yeah, so again, our web series Pride in the City will be launching this Sunday, or a week from today. And we will be doing hopefully a new series every month. We also hope to be doing a Pride Talks on a regular basis. And please stay tuned. We are hopeful that in September, we will be able to do something that maybe mimics a parade. Won't be a traditional parade, but something that can galvanize our community in a safe space and be visible and to be heard. So fingers crossed.
Great. And Ted, anything you want people to know about Side by Side before we close this out?
Just that if you're an LGBTQ youth between the ages of 11 to 20, we do have virtual groups happening right now. And those are available to any young person in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so if you visit our website, sidebysideva.org, you can find more information about those groups. And it's free to join, and you're welcome to join during quarantine from the comfort of your own home. They happen on Zoom calls just like you're seeing now.
Great. And I want to thank all of you for coming on. I want to thank all of you for opening your lives to me. And this whole experience has been incredible. It's been amazing, from the first film festival, the Chesapeake Film Festival, up to Slamdance and like screenings and all that kind of stuff. It's just been incredible. If you haven't seen the documentary yet, it's available on Alamo On Demand. It's on their website. If you search Queen of the Capitol, go to queenofthecapital.com. You'll see a link to go there. Make sure you guys follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're Lot One Films. And on Facebook, it's DC Drag Doc. All right, great. Thank you all.
Thank you.